Misfits! Welcome to DIY Sunday! Today, we're gonna make a Snuggie. This is one that I've had for a while, and Sam decided that she wanted one too, so I told her I'd make her one. This is the fabric that she picked out. It's nice and soft, great for this kind of thing. I've laid it out on the floor with some protection underneath it, that way it doesn't ruin the carpet. So I picked up this fabric at Joann's. It is about 60 inches in width and a little over 3 yards. What we're gonna do first is measure the length that we want this thing to be. So the one that I have is a little bit longer than I am. I actually trip over it sometimes, but I like it that way because then I can bunch it up and bundle it underneath me and over top of me when I'm laying down. So I think that's what we're gonna do for this one. Make sure you account for a hem too. That's why I'm folding this piece down a little. This looks like it's gonna be the perfect amount for the Snuggie that I wanna make her. So I've measured out the length that I want. I folded it at that point where it's going to stop. And I wanna make sure that the rest of the fabric is gonna be enough to cover the arms in the right direction. So we could cut the fabric out this way and have the sleeve go out like that. But because the bears and the moose are facing this way, we want to kind of go with the pattern here. So I'll lay down this way here. Yep, that should be perfect. All right, time to cut out the pieces. I forgot my scissors. I'll be right back. I obtained the scissors. So I have some materials here that are a little bit fancier and some that are just straight up not fancy at all. I have this thing. This wonderful thing is going to help me with squaring up my edges and straightening out my lines. You don't need this. You can just use a piece of paper because those work too. Let's see. I also have this. So it's got a cork backing. It is a metal ruler. I prefer this one over normal rulers just because of how precise the edge here is, and the cork backing helps it to not slip around as much. So that's what I've got. This one is 24 inches and a lovely string. So we're going to need this later for when we make the armholes for our actual sleeves. All of the marks that you do, you're going to want to do them on the wrong side of the fabric instead of the right side of the fabric, because once you mark the right side of the fabric, that's it. You're going to be able to see it on the outside. But if you do it on the wrong side of the fabric and if you mess up, there's a chance you can cover it up and you'll be okay. If you make a mess, then it's I hold no responsibility for that. Now what we're doing is making sure that this line right here at the bottom of our Snuggie is going to be straight. We cut out the main portion, so now it's time to make our sleeves. We need to figure out what the width is now for our sleeves so we can make those rectangles. So this is a piece of chalk tied with string. What I did, in order to get my armhole size, I placed the chalk where I wanted it to go on the top of my shoulder here. Took the string, measured it all the way down to where I felt comfortable with the bottom of the armhole being. So that's about right there. I took a Sharpie and marked that point, folded it in half. That half point is going to come in handy when we do our pivot points later for our armholes themselves on the main portion of the Snuggie. But right now what we're going to do is double it. So we're going to take that length that we just measured, double it, and mark it. And that's going to be the width of our sleeves. That's how wide we need our rectangles to be. Don't forget to account for seam allowance. So we're going to add 2 inches to this. Measure it out with your finger here. Add 2 inches. Measure from the edge of the fabric and mark where that chalk lands. We're going to do the same thing on the other side of the fabric here. And mark where that needs to be. We'll use that first rectangle to measure out a second rectangle, using the string to verify that it's the correct length. This piece we're going to save for later because that's going to be a pocket. Now that our pieces are cut out, we need to sew them together. Fold it in half with the wrong sides on the outsides. We're going to sew a seam 1 inch from that edge. If you've never worked before with this type of fabric in your machine, I definitely recommend taking a scrap piece and testing it out before you go to the real thing. Otherwise, you might mess up on your actual pieces and that would not be fun. Trust me, I've done that a lot. It is super frustrating. Now that we have our 2 sleeves sewn together and turned right side out, we need to figure out, of course, where we're going to place them on our main portion. So I've laid out the fabric with the pattern facing the way that I want it to when I lay down. Now that we have the general placement of our sleeves, we're going to measure everything out, make sure it's of even width here, and I'll show you what to do from there. I measured out the top points of our sleeves. So this is basically where our shoulders are going to be. So remember that mark we made with how big we wanted the armhole to be? We're going to use that to mark where the base of that armhole should go. Take this, take that halfway point, set it on that line that you just made, and find the halfway point between those 2 marks. And that is the center of your armhole. Measure it from both sides to make sure that you are getting the exact measurement. Once you find and mark that center point of your armhole, we are ready to use this. So take that piece that you've marked closest to the chalk, place it in the center, and use the chalk to swing around and mark a circle. Y'all probably can't see it very well, but the initial circle is right here. I drew another circle on the inside of it, about 1 inch from the outside circle. That gives us a little bit of a seam allowance. And then I cut from the center all the way to that seam allowance line. And now we have a hole. Taking one of our sleeves, make sure that it is facing right side out and thread it from the bottom through that hole. You're going to want to connect that pinched seam to that bottom mark of that seam allowance. Take some pins and pin it in there. I know it's a little tough to see, but from that bottom piece, find the top piece of your sleeve and that top marking and pin it. Pinch the top point and the bottom point and bring them together. Take the right point of your armhole and pin them together. Do the same thing with the left side. Pinch the top and the bottom together. Find the very left point of your sleeve and pin it to the left side of your armhole. Now the rest of it's going to be a little tricky. Try and match them up best you can. Match up the sleeve edge to the seam allowance line and pin all the way around. Ta-da! Arms! That's how it looks on the inside. Now my Snuggie has a pocket on it that I really like, so I wanted to add that to hers as well. So I cut out a piece of fabric that was about the same size as the pocket that I have and made sure that it was going the same way as the original pattern. So for example, there, there. So the way that we're going to do this, it's going to be a little tricky. I'm going to cut right there and right there to curve out those pieces and make a pocket section. Then we're gonna make that curved sewn line. So here, so here, so here, and again, so that curved line. And last but not least, sew up here, just as the hem. Then after we have the hem done, we're just gonna stitch from right here all the way down, here all the way to here, here all the way to here, skip these two portions, and sew here. We're gonna sew that right onto the fabric piece. And then we should be good to hem the rest of the Snuggie. Let's get to it. Everything is sewn and hemmed. Nice and pretty. All finished. Let's see what she thinks.
Here. Thanks.
Welcome.
Because you know I'm not playing a game or anything.
No, not at all.
Hold on, guys.
Put it on, put it on, put it on.
Okay. That.
And you got your pocket.
There's a pocket!
There is a pocket.
I made them a little small.
It is a little small, but it's a pocket.
It's a one-hand pocket.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Alright, that's all we got for today, guys. If you have any questions on what I've done or need any help making one of your own, drop some questions in the comments and I'll make some more DIY videos. Maybe if you need some help with sewing or sewing specific things together, I'll make some of those. Well, thanks for watching. Be welcomed and get creative. Bye, guys.